Hi everyone. Now we are going to discuss about the physical properties of the soil. The physical properties of the soil are going to be discussed in the following headings. So what are those? Soil structure, soil consistency or strength, soil color, permeability, temperature, density, porosity, soil pH, and the soil plasticity, soil organic matter, soil water, air, and temperature. So all these things are going to be discussed individually in detail. Let's begin. The first one, soil structure. So what is meant by soil structure? The soil particles which are going to be aggregated and they are going to form a structure, and that too in an arrangement is going to be in a certain defined pattern, that we are going to call it as a soil structure. That means the soil particles when occur in an aggregated form and their arrangement into certain defined pattern is going to be called as soil structure. If this aggregated form or arrangement is going to be occur in a natural form, then we call it as pets. If it is going to be occurring in an artificial form, then we call that as a clod. So this soil structure is going to reveal the color of the soil, texture of the soil, chemical composition of the soil aggregates, which are going to be influenced by several factors like air, moisture, organic matter, even the microorganisms and the root growth. When many particles or pads are aggregated into a cluster, a compound particle is going to be formed. So here you can see the structure of the soil, which is going to have the complexity of the composition of the soil containing of microorganisms and the minerals, the water, the clay particles, even the organic matter, air, all these things. So we are going to have the different types of the soils depending upon the clay particles, their aggregation, size, everything. We are going to have the different classifications. So the first one is going to be the granular, where here in the picture you can see this is going to resembling like our cookies crumbs and is usually less than 0.5 centimeters or 1 to 10 millimeters in diameter, and these are going to be found mainly in the A origin, where plant roots, microorganisms, and sticky products of organic matter decomposition binds to the soil granules in the granular aggregate. So that is what we have to remember about the granular. Then coming to the blocky. So if you observe here, these are going to be of irregular blocks that are usually 1.5 to 5 centimeters in diameter. And if you observe here, they are going to be of roughly cube shape with more or less flat surfaces. If the edges are going to be of corners remain very sharp, then we are going to call it as angular blocky. If they are going to be of rounded, we are going to call it as subangular block. And this blocky type of the soil aggregates we are going to find in the B origin with the high clay content, and they form a repeated expansion and contraction of the clay minerals. Then moving to the next one is a prismatic, where vertical columns of soil that might be a number of centimeters long and usually found in the lower origins of and the size of this is going to be of about 10 to 100 millimeters. Then moving to the next one is columnar. So these units are similar to the prisms and are found flat or slightly rounded verticals. And the top of columns, in contrast to prisms, are very distinct and normally rounded. That means these vertical columns of soil is going to have a salty cap at the top found in the soils of mainly arid origins. Then moving to the platy. So here you can see the flat beds that are going to be lie horizontally in the soil. And this platy structure can be found in the A origin, B origin, and the C origin. And it is going to commonly occur in A origin as a result of compactation. So along with this, we are also having a single grain, that is the soil is broken into individual particles that do not stick together. And the best examples of this kind is going to be the sandy soil. So this is how we are going to have the different types of soil structures. Then moving to the importance of the soil structure, why we have to know about the soil structure. This soil structure is going to be of very important in increasing the infiltration of water, thus reducing runoff and erosion and increase the amount of plant available water. That is the first thing. Then it is going to improve the seedling emergence, root growth and root depth. Then large continuous pores increases the permeability of the water and the minerals. So that's how these are going to be a few importance of the soil structure. Then moving to the soil particles, so the soil particles or soil separates are going to be the particles of various sizes in the soil, or generally called as soil particles or soil separates. On the basis of the size, soil particles are classified in different types, such as we are going to have the coarse particles. If the size is going to be more than 2 millimeters, then we call them as coarse particles or gravels. If the size of the soil particle is 2 to 0.2 millimeters, we call them as coarse sand. And the fine sand particles is going to be of 0.2 to 0.02 millimeters in size. And the silts is going to have even less than that size. And if the soil particle size is below 0.002, we consider those as a clay particles. So here we are going to have the major three classifications of the soil particles, that is sand, silt and the clay. So here the sand is going to be of a loose and fragile particles that we know, and the size varies from 2.2 to 0.02 millimeters in diameter. And these particles can be seen by the unaided eyes. That means we can see with our naked eye. And these sand particles are going to be inactive and constitute the main framework of the soil, but it is going to have a less important psychochemical activities, that is physicochemical activities. And there is going to be of increase the size of the pore spaces between the soil particles, and thus facilitating the movement of air and the water in the soil. Then coming to the silt, these are going to be of intermediate size between the sand and the clay, and they are going to be range from 0.02 to 0.002 millimeters. If it is below, then we call it as a clay. And silty soils is going to contain the sufficient quantities of nutrient both. That means the nutrients that are deriving from both organic and inorganic, and which leads to the very fertility of the concerned soil. And this silt containing soils are going to be of possessing very great water holding capacity, such that it is going to be very good for agriculture purposes. Then the third type is clay. Here the soil fraction is going to contain smallest particles than the silt. That means the size of the soil particles is going to be below 0.02 millimeters. And the clay soil possesses fine pores, poor drainage and aeration, and thus have highest water holding capacity. So obviously if the pore size is so less, so they are going to hold much water. And this clay is going to act as a storehouse for water and nutrient, but it is not good for the growth of the crops, all those things. And these clay particles are going to be of having a very active part in physio and chemical reactions of the soil. Then moving to the soil texture, which is very important regarding the soil property. So soil texture is going to be of the relative percentage of the soil particle, that is sand, silt and the clay of a given soil. So here we are going to take how much of the sand is there, how much of the silt is there, and how much of the clay is going to be there. This soil texture for a given origin is almost a permanent. That means it is not going to be varies. It is going to be the same for any given origin, because it remains unchanged over a long period of time. But however, based on the relative percentage of the soil particles, soils are going to be classified into 12 textural classes, such as we are going to designate them as clay, sandy clay, clay loam, then silty clay, then what we call as sandy clay loam, loam, like this. Altogether, we are going to have the 12. So to designate these textural classes of soil, equatorial triangle is going to be or used, which consists of 3 angles. So how many angles? 3 angles are there, and its area is divided into 12 groups representing 12 different textural classes. And each group is going to cover different range of percentage of sand, silt and the clay. Sand, silt and the clay. And the knowledge of soil texture helps classifying soil as well as determining the degree of weathering of the rock. And this soil texture is going to influence the porosity, that means the soil porosity, the amount of this and the size of the pores, then plant available water holding capacity, absorption of the nutrients, the plasticity of the soil, and the knowledge of these all is going to be of very helpful in classifying soil. I told you that how we can classify the soil, as well as determining the degree of weathering of the rock. That means the conversion of the rocks into the soil is going to be called as weathering of rocks. Then moving to the soil weight and density. So here you can see the soil density refers to the mass of the soil per unit volume, which is going to be expressed in terms of gram per cubic centimeter, is going to be called as soil density. And this soil density is also going to be depending upon the degree of weathering. That means weathering of the rock. Now, the weight of the soil varies in relation to the texture classes. So, the clay is going to have more weight when compared to the silt, and silt is going to have the more weight when compared to the sand. So, this is how, depending upon the textural classes that we have discussed now, is also going to be vary in the soil density or weight of the soil. So example, now only I told you that weight of the loam or sandy soil is only 80 to 110 pounds cubic foot, whereas the weight of the clay is going to be 70 to 100 pounds per cubic foot. And the soil density is going to be expressed in two generally accepted forms, that is going to be of particle density or true density, or the bulk density. What is meant by particle density? The density of the solid portion of a soil is called as particle density. How can we calculate or measure it? Weight of the solids divided by volume of the solids gives rise to the particle density. Then moving to the bulk density, the dry weight of unit volume of soil inclusive of pore spaces is called bulk density. And this is going to be expressed per ml, grams per ml, or lbs per cubic foot. It is going to be lesser than the particle density of the soil. And how can we calculate this one? Means weight of the soil by volume of the soil. So whereas the particle density, weight of the solids by volume of the solids, whereas the bulk density is going to be the fraction of weight of the soil by volume of the soil. And this bulk density of organic soils is going to be low when compared to the mineral soils. So here you can see the pictures of sandy soil, loamy soil and the clay soil. Then moving to the soil consistency. So here the soil consistency is going to represent at varying moisture conditions, that is the degree and the kind of cohesion and adhesion of soil material. So what is meant by cohesion and adhesion? Cohesion is going to refer the attraction of substances of like characters. For example, the attraction between the water molecule with another water molecule is going to be called as cohesion. If the attraction is between a soil particle and the water molecule, then we call it as adhesion. Okay, so cohesion and adhesion. And the consistency of the soil can be described for three moisture levels, that is wet soil, moist soil and dry soil. Wet soil means you are going to have the more quantity of the water in it. Moist is going to be of medium. Then dry soil, completely no water. So obviously it will be loose, soft, slightly hard, very hard and extremely hard characters. Then moving to the soil plasticity. So this soil plasticity means the characteristics of a soil that enables the moist soil to change shape when some force is going to be applied over it. And after removing that force also, if the shape is going to be retaining, then that nature is going to be called as plasticity. So we can see this kind of the plasticity more in the black soil, where we use it to prepare for some sort of uh, dolls, or some sort of mud dolls, or some sort of idols, isn't it? So at that kind of the soils are going to have the plasticity, and this soil plasticity is going to depend on cohesion, adhesion properties of a soil. What is cohesion? The attraction between the like particles, that is water molecule with another water molecule, or the attraction between the water molecule with the soil particles. So the plasticity is going to depend upon these two factors. Okay, not only that, it is also going to be depending upon the cohesive force as well as the moisture content of the plastic soils. So with a decrease in the moisture content, these soils gradually tend to become less sticky and less plastic. So finally they become very hard and coherent. So the moist clay soils are going to be very plastic. That means it is going to be more plastic, but they may become frequently develop the cracks when the moisture content is going to be lost. Then moving to the soil color and the composition. So obviously the soil is going to exhibit a variety of colors which may be inherited from the parental material, that is through the process called as lithochromic, or maybe due to the soil formation process called as acquired or genetic process. And the soil color variations are due to the soil, what were the materials that are going to present, mainly the organic materials or the iron compounds, silica, lime, and other inorganic compounds too. For example, if you check this black and the dark gray color, this is going to be of because of the one which is going to have much quantity of organic matter. In the same manner, if you are going to see the more number of or more iron compounds, they bring the brown color to the soil. And in the same manner, the red and yellow colors are going to be because of iron oxides in combination with organic substances impart the brown color to the soil, red, brown, and yellow colors. Whereas this, in the same manner, if you're going to check the bluish and green color of the soil, is because of the presence of ferrous compounds, and this reducing condition occurs in ill-drained soils morely. In the same manner, if you're going to come with the mottling soil, so here you are going to have the mottling indicates the alternating oxidizing and reducing conditions due to fluctuating water. And soil color influences greatly the temperature, that is soil temperature. More the darker, more it is going to absorb the heat. So obviously the temperature is going to be varied. The dark colored soils, as I told you, is going to absorb the heat readily than the light colored soil ones. For example, if you check the that is black soil, then it is going to absorb 86% of the heat, whereas the gray alluvial soil is going to absorb only 40% of the heat. So like this, depending upon the color of the soil, the temperature or the heat absorption is going to be differing. So that's why it is going to impact the what we call as soil temperature too. So this, whatever the color of the soil is, can be identified by a typical chart called as Munsell color chart. That means if you want to know about the color of the soil, you can refer with a reference chart called as Munsell color chart. Then moving to the soil porosity. So here the porosity of the soil is the volume of all the pore spaces present between the soil particles of a soil is going to be called as soil porosity. That means the porosity or soil porosity is the volume of all the pore spaces between the solid particles of a soil is called soil porosity or porosity of soil. And pore spaces are going to be filled with either air or other gases or even with the water. So here this porosity is going to be impacting with the water retention system of the soil, which provides as the storage of the water for the plant roots. and the pores are going to be of present in the soil are going to be classified into two different types depending upon their size. So one are going to be called as macropores, another one is going to be called as micropores. So macropores are going to permit the fast filtration and the percolation of the water through the soil or soil origin. The best example is going to be the sandy soils. And then moving to the micropores, these exhibit attractive forces stronger enough to hold the water in between them, and there comes the clay soil. So one, it is going to have the more larger pores in the sandy soil. That may be one of the reasons where it is not having the capacity to hold the water, so that it is going to more percolation of the water. Then moving to the clay soil, here it is going to have the much pores, that is micropores, which can have the holding capacity of the water in their pores. Then moving to loam soils, these are going to contain the mixtures of micro and macro pores, and therefore they are going to be the best for plant growth in these soils. So if we observe this clay soil and the sandy soils, why they are not going to be very useful for the plant is these clay soils are going to possess the large number of micropores, hence hold large quantities of the water. But since they have few macrospores, they allow very slow water filtration. And these pores in the clay may be so small and hold water so tenaciously that the water becomes not available to plants. So that's how it is not going to be useful for the plant growth. In the same manner, if we come with the sandy soils, these are going to possess the numerous macropores but few micropores, hence are going to have the higher infiltration and percolation rates but a lower water holding capacity, which means less availability of the water for the plant growth. So in both the cases, the water is going to be less available to the plants. So obviously it is not going to be good for the proper growth of the plants when compared to our loamy soil. Then moving to the next thing, here you can see the pore sizes of the soil where they are going to be having the infiltration capacity. So here it is going to be a healthy soil containing good structure of water infiltration into the soil pores and slows water velocity, and it is a dark color, high organic matter, and the soil surface is going to be covered with a dead vegetation. Whereas here you can see this is a degraded soil where it is going to have a weak structure and no water infiltration through soil pores clogged and water runs off quickly. Low organic matter is present and the soil surface is covered with a soil crust. Then moving to the soil permeability. So soil permeability is a property of the soil pore system that allows water to flow. Generally, these are going to be the pore sizes and their connectivity that determine whether the soil possesses high or low permeability. And water flows easily through soil possessing macropores and with good connectivity, whereas the micropores with the same degree of connectivity allow lower permeability. Why? Because water flows through these pores more slowly. Permeability may be zero or no flow in a high porosity soil if the pores are not connected, that means which are not going to be of in a spacious manner, and it may also be zero if the pores are very small, such as in the clay soil. So in both the cases we are going to have this one. So permeability of a soil is going to be varies with the moisture status and usually decreases with the gradual desiccation of the soil. In the arid regions, groundwater moves upwardly through capillary action and brings sodium, potassium, and calcium salts, which are going to be dissolved in the state of water that is present in the soil water, to the surface of the soil. Now, the water that moves to the surface of the soil evaporates, and inorganic salts are going to be precipitate on the surface of the soil. As a result, the soil becomes less permeable and the productive capacity of the soil is reduced. Okay. Now, as a result, the soil is going to become less permeable and the productivity of the soil is reduced. And this clay soils are going to have the what we call as the platy structures are going to have very low permeability. So in the picture you can see this, the platy structures are going to have the low permeability when compared to the granular and aggregated soils. And the blocky and the columnar type prismatic is going to have the moderate permeability. Whereas massive as well as the platy type are going to be having very low permeability of the water. Then moving to the soil temperature. The temperature of the soil depends upon the temperature of the atmospheric air as well as on the moisture content. And this soil temperature, it is going to be controlled by color of the soil, I told you. Then slope, so slope and the altitude of the land, and also by the vegetation. That means whatever the plants are going to be present, all those things are going to be considered as vegetational cover of the soil. So these are all the factors that are going to be deciding the soil temperature. The temperature of the surface soil shows considerable fluctuations, but soil temperature below certain depths, that means deep into the soil, is going to have the remain more or less constant. So several studies have shown that diurnal temperature differences at a level of 12 inches below the soil surface is just 1 degree centigrade, and at the depth of 2 feet, and it seldom exceeds 0.1 degrees centigrade. That means it is not affected and remains constant at the depth of 3 to 4 feet. So if you go into the 3 to 4 feet, that the temperature is going to be maintained constant. For example, if we are going to take considering the soil microorganisms or soil organisms exhibiting in the different temperatures, we are going to have the three, that is minimum, maximum and optimum. The organisms that are going to survive at the low temperatures or extreme low are going to be called as cryophiles, and the one which are going to be of having the high extremes of temperature are going to be called as thermophiles. And majority of the organisms, that is especially soil organisms and microorganisms, are going to grow at a range of 15 to 40 degrees centigrade, where we call them as mesophiles. And so soil temperature also greatly affects the rate of chemical and biochemical reactions in the soil. If the soil temperature rises to some point, some vital function of the cell is impaired or destroyed, and the organisms are going to be killed. And at colder temperatures, so when we go for the lower temperatures of cryophylic conditions, the reaction rates are going to be very slow and may almost completely stop. That means this growth of any kind of the organisms are going to be halted. Okay, so this is what we are going to have. For example, certain seeds, germination of seed requires a different temperatures, and certain moist organisms are going to grow at the mesophilic temperature, and the nitrification is also requiring certain temperature. Optimum temperature is 32 degrees, and these all are going to be some sort of significance of knowing about the soil temperature, where we can go with the all these times. Then moving to the soil pH. So soil pH affects the activity of chemical elements in the soil and so many soil properties. So what is meant by pH? All these things we will discuss in detail in the chemical properties of the soil. So here just learn about, we are having the three different types of the soil with basing on the pH. So that is acidic soils, alkaline soils, and the neutral soils. So we know that the alkaline soils and the acidic soils are not suitable for growth of plants, whereas the neutral soils are going to be of very much suitable because of having the availability of the plant nutrients at that specific soil pH. These neutral soils are going to favor the growth of microorganisms, which are going to be having the responsible in the nutrient cycles. So mainly nitrification, phosphor, solubilization of phosphate, all these things. That means from organic forms into the inorganic form, which can be easily absorbed by the plants. Then moving to the soil organic matter. So the surface layer of soil consists of relatively unchanged mass of a plant or animal that is going to be called as litter. This organic matter is going to be decomposed by several activities of microorganisms, and they are being converted into the unidentifiable amorphous material called as humus, and this process is called as humification. And this humus is going to be very important for the fertility of the soil, and it plays a major role in the soil texture and the structure of the soil contribution. And not only that, this organic matter is also acting as a buffering capacity. That means it is going to balance the pH of the soil, and it also increases in the water holding capacity. Then moving to the soil water. So water contained in the soil is going to be called as soil moisture, and we call that soil solution also, where the water is going to be held in the soil particles. So this water is going to be a major component of soil in relation to the plant and the microbial activities or their growth. The water holding capacity of the soil is that means we are going to decide by the porosity or the soil structure, whether it is a sandy, silty or the clay type. We are going to discuss depending upon the porosity of it. The soil water that we are going to have is going to be of three types, that is gravitational water, capillary water and the hygroscopic water. The gravitational water means after heavy rains or irrigation, the gravitational water is drawn through the soil. Then what is meant by capillary water? Upon drainage of excess water, the water retained at the field capacity in the soil pores is going to be called as capillary water, and this is the water that plants are going to be extracting or taking. Then hygroscopic water. This water relates to that water absorbed by the dry soil from the atmosphere of highly relative humidity. Okay, so that's how we have the three types of the water. Then moving to the soil air. So soil also possesses some sort of a gases, and these gases are going to be found in the air space between the soil components. And the natural soil gases are going to be your nitrogen, carbon dioxide and oxygen. The constant movement or circulation of air in the soil mass resulting in the renewal of its component gases is known as soil aeration. So this is all about the different types of the soil physical properties that we have discussed until now. In the next video, we are going to discuss about the properties, that is chemical properties of the soil in detail. Thank you.